How do we train our brains to see possibilities instead of failures? Let's talk about it today. I'm Jesse Crosson, and this is the Resilience Mindset. I used to think that control meant either not reacting at all or overacting in a way that everyone would remember. I thought it meant showing nothing or giving in to the rage that felt powerful and often led me to cause a lot of harm. But control isn't doing nothing or doing too much. Control is having a measured response, not just a freeze reaction or a fight or flight reaction. Self-regulation is about learning how to notice what is happening inside of us before it takes over the outside of our lives. In prison, I thought I had to hide everything. Anger, fear, grief. I learned to keep my face blank. But inside, that pressure built. I mean inside of me, not just inside of prison. I've seen guys snap over a sideways glance. Not because of the glance, but because they had never learned how to sit with the discomfort of being triggered. The neuroscience backs this up. When we encounter a trigger, something that reminds us of danger or powerlessness or pain, the amygdala fires off an alarm. Now, the amygdala is a part of our brain that says we are not safe. But when that alarm keeps going off in non-dangerous situations, it's like we're living in a fire drill all the time. According to the polyvagal theory, our nervous system responds with fight, flight, or freeze long before we logically think through the situation. That means we aren't actually in control of our body's reactions. Self-regulation means being in control of our responses and allowing us to reset that alarm system. I remember moments that changed everything. You know how many times in prison and before I felt disrespected? My hands would start clenching, my face would feel hot, my chest would feel tight, blood pumped through my body, and I wanted to lash out. Sometimes I did lash out, and it never got me anywhere but into more trouble. But when I paused, when I walked away, when I asked myself, what am I actually feeling? It often wasn't just anger. Sometimes it was shame, or it was embarrassment, or it was a sense of powerlessness. Sometimes someone was saying something I didn't like because part of what they were saying was true and that made me uncomfortable. When I could recognize that, when I could name that, it gave me space to choose a different reaction. Psychologist Daniel Siegel calls it name it to tame it. When we label our emotions, we reduce their intensity. We regain access to the prefrontal cortex, the part of our brain that handles problem solving and empathy. Basically, we go from operating at our most basic and our most primal level to our most advanced. It's like going from the part of us that just wants to smash something to the part of us that can solve complex problems. Now, triggers are personal. For me, one was raised voices or slamming sounds, things that reminded me of childhood. For others, it might be being told what to do. It might be feeling trapped. It might be any other reminder of past trauma. We have to learn our own signals, both internal and external. Maybe it's tightness in our chest, or racing thoughts, or shallow breathing. That is our bodies talking to us. When we notice those early cues, that's our window. We can breathe. We can find some way to ground ourselves, and we can ride out the wave of feelings. I have found that breath work, especially slow inhalations and exhalations, can be really helpful. It activates the parasympathetic nervous system, the part of us that's responsible for calming down physically. It's not just mindfulness fluff, it's science. We don't get to choose what does and doesn't trigger us, but we can train how we respond. That's what regulation is. It's not the absence of emotion, it's emotion with awareness. Now, James Gross says that strategies like cognitive reappraisal, which is basically reframing a situation to see it from a new angle, can reduce emotional intensity and it can improve decision making. So instead of thinking, he disrespected me, I need to do something, we might reframe it as, hey, I felt disrespected and I don't want to make it worse. I'm going to work for a solution rather than act out of blind emotion or blind rage. We have all disrespected someone before. We didn't all need to get our faces bashed in to learn to act differently. That's not our job. This doesn't mean that we let people walk all over us. It means we stay in the driver's seat. We choose to respond rather than react. And that means that we keep our power instead of handing it over to someone else in an instant of emotion. Some days we get it right. Other days we lose our temper or we give in to self-pity and we regret it. But every time we pause, every time we breathe, every time we check in with our bodies, we are building new pathways. We are retraining our nervous systems. We are building new habits. Because over time, we're no longer just surviving conflict. We're transforming how we react and how we live in our own skin, and that is a powerful thing because that is all about choice. Now, reflection for you. What physical cues show up in your body when you're triggered? And what helps you come back to center? Now, I can think of a couple examples where I responded in very different ways. The night that I committed the shooting that sent me to prison, that was me responding really badly. It started over the phone. Because here I am talking to somebody that I don't even know and arguing with them and going back and forth and giving into that anger and what did you say to me and who do you think you are? I was 18 years old and I was out of my mind and I thought I had to prove a point. That led to me meeting them. And once we meet them, I had a moment of clarity, a moment of, oh my God, what am I doing here? Somebody is gonna get hurt or somebody is gonna get killed, and I started to leave. Then they started chasing me, and in my mind, I got angry again. How dare you? Who do you think you are? What do you... And when they pulled up beside me and I saw the passenger reaching for something, I grabbed my own gun, I pulled it out and I fired. So that was me handling it all wrong at every step. What that did was land me in prison for 32 years. So I would say that's not a good course of action. On the other hand, in prison was actually where I learned to regulate. Remember one time I was waiting on the shower and this young kid came in the block. He was trying to make a point, he was trying to run in and jump in front of the shower and do everything. And I remember stopping and talking to him and he just started to walk away. I put my hand on his shoulder and I was shaking, I was mad. And I just calmly put my hand on his shoulder and he turned around, he started to say something. I remember his mouth started to open and then he looked me in the eyes and he said, and went back to his cell. And that was me controlling myself. Like it could have gone very differently, but what I was gonna explain was, hey, we don't do that around here. I was gonna say it calmly, I was gonna say it directly, I was not gonna let him walk all over me, but I was also not gonna let it get out of control. Now, that was me doing it better, and in the end, what I had to realize is most of the time, the right thing to do is just walk away, because I'm not gonna gain anything from that. Now, in prison, I felt like I had to keep a line, I had to do certain things, but out here in the world, you can have that shower, you can have that parking spot, you can have that whatever, because I value my freedom. I value the things I have on a daily basis that I wouldn't have if I allowed myself to lose my temper. That's about all I have for the resilient mindset. Just remember, this is not gonna come easily, it's not gonna come perfectly, and it's not gonna come quickly. It takes doing it over and over and over, which sometimes means making mistake after mistake after mistake. But the more we do it, the better we get. Just remember, it's like sports. You do as many reps as you can so you can show up on game day. That's what we're training here today. That's it for this lesson. I hope you'll join me for lesson 3, emotional regulation and self-care. I'm Jesse Crosson, and I'll see you there.